Chapter 81. Wanted order. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Sparrow Translations Editor. Sparrow Translations. Feng Zhengji had always believed that he was knowledgeable about robbery. As the saying goes, professional people would do professional things. But, the conduct of these mountain bandits in front of him caused him to feel very pained. A successful person had to be with the right people, in the right place and at the right time. Usually, the right time referred to information, its practical usage could refer to intelligence, news, etc. These bandits didn't even show a slight bit of interest in him, and robbed him just like that. Naturally, they lost the right time. As for the right place, that didn't need any mentioning. Not digging a few traps was already the dumbest of moves. Once they met, all of their archers had revealed themselves, hence whatever strategic location they had disappeared. The only advantage was people. After all, they had more people. Feng Zhengji was sure that these mountain bandits in front of him weren't very experienced. Then, the question came. To directly disperse them, or wipe them out. Looking at the color of the sky, it seemed to be already getting late. If he continued to journey at this time, he had to journey at least 5 miles to reach the Wan County. Furthermore, he still had to find an inn afterwards. It was going to be rather troublesome. Brother Mountain Bandits, hello. Young Master Mi had to rush when leaving the house, hence didn't bring much money. I only have 100 taels. Other than that, I have 30 broken silver pieces. If Brother Mountain Bandits don't mind, you can have them. Feng Zhengji thought of something, and very generously fished out 100 taels silver note and a bag of broken silver pieces from his pocket. Young Master. Which family's young master? The bandit leader was at least rather vigilant. Those in his profession had one rule, that was to eliminate the roots completely. Hence, he quickly seized the profound theory within Feng Zhengji's words. Ha ha. Brother bandits are only conducting a robbery, why must you know young Master Mi's family background? Feng Zhengji smiled faintly, with a mysterious look on his face. This caused the bandit leader to confirm his thoughts. This youth in front of him had to be some important family's young master. If he was robbed today, there would definitely be consequences next time. When he thought of this, the bandit leader thought of killing. Looks like brother bandits feel that it is too little. No problem, 5 miles in front would be the Wan County, the boss of the money farm there and my father are acquainted. Hence, I will be able to borrow 50,000 silver notes to give to brother bandits as ransom. What do you think? Feng Zhengji smiled inside, but on the outside, a trace of fear appeared on his face. 50,000 silver notes. The bandit leader was taken aback, getting 50,000 taels just like that. This was a huge bargain. If they really could get that, they would definitely turn over a new leaf, and not live the bitter life of robbing anymore. When the surrounding bandits similarly heard Feng Zhengji's words, their emotions began to stir up. The hand holding the saber of a few whose hearts weren't as strong began to tremble. 50,000 silver taels. How could they not be stirred up? Why must we believe you? The bandit leader quickly changed his thought. The fat lamb had already reached his mouth, how could he give it up? But, even though he was excited, he could at least still rationalize. My words are naturally trustable, but if brother bandits don't believe this, it's indeed inevitable. Else, you can send 2 people to escort me, so everybody can relax. Feng Zhengji quickly suggested an idea. The leader bandit thought for a while, then sought the opinions of the surrounding bandits, and finally nodded. Alright, we will do as you said. The transaction was smoothly completed. All the archers naturally laid down their weapons. Then, 2 bandits wielding short blades also surrounded Feng Zhengji, one on the left and one on the right. Feng Zhengji was actually rather cooperative. Leaping off from the silver scale horse, then looking at the color of the sky, he seemed rather regretful and blinked a few times at the bandit leader. Brother bandit, look, the sky is already dark. I have to travel so many miles of mountain roads, can I have something to eat as nourishment? Now, we are the ones robbing you, but you want us to give you something to eat. The bandit leader felt that no matter how he thought about it, this request seemed rather uncomfortable. He was the one robbing. Since when did robbers give their victims food? Young Master Me is weak and sickly, without any food. How can I travel 5 miles of mountain paths? You definitely can't let me ride my horse, right? Fang Zhengji gazed at the mountain path ahead and seemed very grieved. The bandit leader was somewhat hesitant. He naturally couldn't allow Fang Zhengji to ride his horse. If he ran away, who could catch him? Brother, what are you scared of? This kid is so weak that he can almost be blown away by the wind. It wouldn't be too late to bring him back to the mountain stronghold and have a good feast, then sending him to the Wan County tomorrow. A bandit with a small beard instantly came over. How can we allow outsiders to enter the mountain stronghold? The bandit leader's tone changed. Brother, we are going to be rich tomorrow, what do we need the stronghold for? That's true. The bandit leader understood. The feeling of have 50,000 silver taels, yet still remaining the mountain king of this tiny mountain was indeed too sullen. As he thought, the bandit leader quickly felt at ease. All right, bring him back to the mountain stronghold. Thank you, brother bandit. Fang Zhengji instantly expressed his gratitude. Such broad-minded people were exactly the ones he liked. The sky was darkening, and he still had to find an inn. Furthermore, no matter how small a mosquito was, it still had meat. Even though the bandits were still rather inexperienced, they definitely had some housing. Where was the house? Naturally, it was in the stronghold. You can't expect a bandit to conduct a robbery, and at the same time bringing along all their money. They entered the stronghold. The stronghold wasn't big, and built at the side of the mountain, surrounded by lush trees. From afar, it was indeed hard to notice. The stronghold door was very new, and looked like it was chopped less than a year ago. This also confirmed Fang Zhengji's guess. Once they entered the stronghold, they instantly reached the living room. Then, Fang Zhengji made himself comfortable. With alcohol and meat, he dined on cloud 9. Young Master Fang, eat and drink well. As the bandit leader spoke, a cold glint faintly flashed in his eyes, and decided that once he got the 50,000 taels of silver, he would instantly kill this young Master Fang. Ha ha ha. Good, give me one more bowl. Fang Zhengji indeed didn't bother being polite, and ordered the bandits to pour for him. At the same time, pulling over the entire table of meat in front of him. After he more or less finished eating, the main topic had also come. Fang Zhengji was locked up. Definitely, there wasn't any jail or related things in the stronghold. He was locked in a room, which was decorated rather cleanly. There was a bed and a blanket, except there wasn't a servant girl to serve him. Without a servant girl, how can one sleep? Fang Zhengji expressed his young master temper. The reply was a cold look. Young Master Fang, there isn't a single female in this stronghold. If you really want a servant, how about I find you a male one to serve you? The leader bandit said mercilessly. Fang Zhengji was speechless. Ha! This wasn't the same as what was shown in the televisions. It was said that the bandits were strong and powerful, from time to time having the habit of breaking into houses for robbery and snatching servant girls. If that wasn't possible, couldn't you at least get a stronghold lady to play with? Sigh. A bandit such as yourselves is simply embarrassing. An entire night of silence. The second day, after being served breakfast by the robbers, Fang Zhengji finally casually did a stretch, and with a reluctant expression, said one word to the bandit leader. Robbery. The wind was cooling as usual, and Fang Zhengji, who was galloping wildly on the silver scale horse, was in a rather good mood. This time, the reap was plentiful. After eating and drinking, the other party had even generously given a few hundred silver taels for his travel expenses. Even though there wasn't any heroic saving of stronghold ladies, or unintentionally saving a few lost princesses in the mountain stronghold, but the sleep at night was at least rather good. But, unfortunately for the bandit leader, he would never have thought that he actually met someone from the same trade. Furthermore, it was a lone ranger in the same trade. My money, my money. The bandit leader howled with sorrow as he gazed at the direction in which Fang Zhengji was disappearing into. Brother. As the saying goes, where there's life, there's hope. This person from the same trade is indeed very kind, he only took our money, and didn't harm our lives. The bandit with the small beard came over again. Get lost. 5 days later. At the southern gate of the River of Trust capital, a youth wearing a blue robe, pulling along a silver scale horse with a casual expression, looked up at the ancient city called River of Trust. Just as he was about to express how bustling this ancient city was, his gaze suddenly froze. Because he saw a portrait drawing at the city gate. It wasn't because of how much this drawing seemed to be painted by renowned experts, nor how lifelike this drawing was. It was because there were 3 words written at the top of the portrait. Fang Zhengji. Have I already become so famous? My portrait is even pasted on the city gate of the River of Trust capital. The youth was confused, then, it suddenly changed. Wait a minute. Don't tell me this is a wanted order. Chapter 82. A mouthful of fragrant tea. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Sparrow Translations Editor. Sparrow Translations. Fang Zhengji didn't know whether he had killed the River of Trust capital head's entire family, but he felt that his name shouldn't be appearing on this official portrait drawing at all. Interesting. Being pasted at the city gate for no good reason. Fang Zhengji felt that he should shout that he was wronged in front of the county head's door, or at least make a clarification. But, if he really did this, it seemed a bit like walking into the trap. What to do? After being wanted, can he still peacefully register for the capital examination? Young Master Fang. At least I have managed to wait for you. As Fang Zhengji was deep in hesitation, an excited voice came from within the city gate. Then, a boy servant wearing black clothes quickly sprinted towards his direction. Oh no, I'm discovered. Fang Zhengji instinctively wanted to kick out, then, suddenly realized that this boy servant was somewhat familiar. After looking carefully, it was actually the one in charge of the betting stand at the Huayan County. Because of young Master Fang's blessing, I have already been shifted to the River of Trust capital to work. This is a small gift I've prepared, I hope young Master Fang can keep it. As he spoke, the boy's servant fished out a red banner from his pockets and respectively passed it to Fang Zhengji. Ha! Giving me money again. Fang Zhengji felt somewhat strange. Sometimes, good things came too fast, it was indeed hard to get used to. But, getting used to was one thing, receiving it was another. Hence, without hesitation, he directly received the red banner. Opening it, he saw a letter of invitation, with a 50 tael silver note inside. The boy's servant actually had 50 taels of silver. If this was given to an average household, it probably could be used to pay a year's worth of bills. Even though he was a little stunned in his heart, but Fang Zhengji didn't reveal it. He only smiled slightly. Accept smilingly, why can one accept without smiling? Since things are like this, I'll keep it. Then, what is this invitation letter about? Thank you, young Master Fang. This invitation letter is because my master heard that Fang Zhengji was the double role champion of the county examination, hence specially held a feast to apologize to young Master Fang. The boy's servant instantly explained. Fang Zhengji somewhat understood. This master seemed to have felt that the words passed to this boy's servant had hurt his heart, hence was here to apologize. But now he is a wanted man. Can he still enter this River of Trust capital? Furthermore, could this feast be set up to harm him, purposely capturing him in exchange for reward. The probabilities were too many, hence Fang Jingji felt that he should take a look first. You. Do you know what is this about? Fang Jingji pointed at the portrait at the city gate. This. Young Master Fang doesn't know. The boy's servant felt rather odd. But, looking at Fang Jingji's expression, the boy's servant instantly became respectful again. Young Master Fang has misunderstood, this is not a wanted order. Not a wanted order. Fang Jingji had an urge to swear. If this wasn't a wanted order, why was it pasted at the city gate? If this wasn't a wanted order, why did you paste my portrait? It indeed isn't a wanted order, but the results are even more powerful than a wanted order. I am only a runner, and don't know the details. But, my master would definitely know. The boy's servant's eyes spun, and very quickly diverted the attention of Fang Jingji to his purpose for coming this time. You mean, when I meet your master, I will know. Fang Jingji naturally inferred what the boy's servant meant. Yes. The boy's servant nodded his head. Fang Jingji's attitude changed slightly. He had been feeling that something was strange about this. After a moment of thought, his eyes lit up, walked directly to the portrait drawing in front of the city gate and tore it down. This move instantly attracted the attention of some passers-by. Ah! It's Fang Jingji. Quick look, Fang Jingji has appeared. This lecher has finally arrived at the River of Trust capital, there will be a good show to see this time round. Instantly, a few passers-by dressed in scholar clothes began to shout. Each of their expressions were indignant at injustice, but nobody went to capture Fang Jingji. A few armored soldiers guarding the city gate also heard this voice. Then, sweeping their gazes across Fang Jingji, they mysteriously didn't have any intention of advancing. But, within the eyes appeared an unmistakable sense of pity. Looks like it really isn't a wanted order. Fang Jingji relaxed. If it really was a wanted order, him tearing it up in front of everybody would definitely cause the guards at the city gate to catch him, or at least interrogate him. Then. That's where the problem came. Who would be so brave as to paste his portrait at the city gate? Furthermore, most importantly, the guard at the city gate clearly knew about his, but didn't stop it from happening. This was a place where the officials pasted announcements and wanted orders. Isn't it too strange? Young Master Fang, can we enter the city now? The boy's servant didn't quite understand the true intention of Fang Jingji tearing down the portrait, but guessed that whoever had their portrait pasted at the city gate would definitely not be very comfortable. Don't we need to go inform your master first? Fang Jingji nodded and asked casually. Young Master Fang, don't worry, as long as you nod your head, there will naturally be someone to inform our master. When the boy's servant said this, a proud expression instantly appeared on his face. Let's go. Fang Jingji thought that it was almost time to eat, and there was someone giving him money and treating him to a meal. Naturally he thought that it would be inconvenient to reject. Young Master Fang, please. Oh, by the way, my name is Su Jiu. Young Master Fang can call me Jiu next time. If in the future young Master Fang wants to commit some murder or arson and so on, feel free to get someone to inform Jiu, I will definitely carry it out perfectly. As Su Jiu walked, he introduced himself to Fang Jingji. For the first time, Fang Jingji became rather speechless. This Su Jiu seems rather interesting. How about things like snatching women? Young Master Fang, who do you think I am? I will snatch one for you right now. When Su Jiu heard this, he instantly became excited. There is a person in the Divine Constabulary called Qi Gaian, do you know her? Snatching Qi Gaian naturally wasn't an option, and Fang Jingji on the other hand didn't fuss over it. Instead, he followed Su Jiu to a place called Moonview Restaurant. Once they entered the hall, a girl servant wearing a red dress replaced Su Jiu and led Fang Jingji up the building. Very quickly, they reached the 5th floor and he was brought into an exquisite ancient styled room. Then, the girl servant excused herself. And another girl servant served a pot of fragrant tea and refreshments. Young Master Fong, please wait, Master will arrive soon. The girl servant slowly withdrew. Everything seemed to be clear and in good order. Under such circumstances, Fong Zhengji also had the rare opportunity to assume an elegant manner. Smiling faintly, he nodded his head at the girl servant. When the girl servant withdrew, he lifted up the teacup in front of him, sipped it lightly, rolled it over his tongue, then after savoring it for a while, swallowed it. The fragrance filled his mouth, and texture was smooth and slippery. Not bad. Fong Zhengji praised, then poured the remaining tea in the cup into his mouth. I apologize for my previous slip of the tongue, and feel very guilty inside. I heard Ajio say that young Master Fong once said that, he is a male, I'll smack him with a rod, if she is a female, I will bang 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 on the spot. I am willing to accept it, but I don't know what does this bang 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 mean. At this moment, a sweet voice rang out from outside the door. Then, an exquisite figure walked in slowly. She wore black thin summer dress with black pleated skirt with a golden tree peony sewn on it, and on her shoulders, wore a light muslin thin covering. Her facial appearance was picturesque, and her skin white as snow. Between her eyebrows, there was a bright red vermilion dot, like a beautiful red flower in the white snow. One look at her caused one to feel her sweetness and charm, and be absorbed by her beauty. PFFF. Fong Zhengji was initially preparing to leisurely swallow a mouthful of fragrant tea. Suddenly hearing the girl's words, he instantly sprayed his mouthful of fragrant tea towards the girl's face. Chapter 83. Sacred Message from the Heavens. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Sparrow Translations Editor. Sparrow Translations. As a good man who respected women, Fong Zhengji naturally couldn't allow such horrible things to happen. Hence, as the tea danced in mid-air, he had already reacted. The water poured away couldn't be recovered, but it could be blocked. In a flash, Fong Zhengji's hand reached out with the speed of lightning, and wanted to block the tea that flew towards the girl's face. Wu Yuer indeed felt slightly shocked. But, that was just a slight shock, even though she was only 18 this year. But those who truly knew her, knew how shocking this 18-year-old girl's abilities were. It was just a mouthful of tea. How could it cause Wu Yuer to be at a loss? Hence, she only lightly waved her hands to block off that mouthful of tea. Not mentioning one mouthful, even a drip of tea wouldn't be able to touch her face. But, she had still miscalculated. When the tea was effortlessly blocked, she realized that she had miscalculated. Because, a hand had already reached forward, then, before she managed to react, that hand had already touched her face. The entire scene paused for 3 seconds. Fong Zhengji felt a delicate, soft feeling on his hand. A faint air of warmth emanated from the silky smooth skin, and he suddenly felt that there were alas some things that he wasn't able to control in this world. For example, he clearly only wished to block the tea. But he would never have thought that a strange force would push his hand slightly, then, very coincidentally ending up on the girl's face. All right. Fong Zhengji had to accept this great feeling on his hand. Then, he coughed lightly and quickly withdrew his hand. His expression remained normal. Without a word, he returned back to his seat, as if nothing had happened at all, and that everything returned back to the scene when the girl entered. Slowly, he poured a new cup of tea for himself and slowly drained it, keeping his pressure under control. Wu Yuer's eyes blinked. She was somewhat in disbelief as she saw Fong Zhengji return back to his seat. Most importantly, Fong Zhengji's expression seemed as if it hadn't changed much. Furthermore, he seemed to have returned to the elegant posture of drinking tea. How can man be shameless to such an extent? At this time, shouldn't he at least apologize sincerely, or express his awkwardness and change a topic? The entire situation became slightly quiet. Finally, Wu Yuer opened her mouth. Seems like this is what bang 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 means. All the way until Wu Yuer sat down slowly, Fang Jingji's face didn't turn red, and his heart didn't jump. He remained as calm as a meditating monk. I heard that young Master Fang seems to be interested in the portrait at the city gate. Wu Yuer spoke again. That's right. Fang Jingji nodded his head lightly, not even mentioning what had just happened. It was not that he didn't want to mention it, but he felt that such awkward things should just go with the wind. How could he say in front of a girl, "I touched you just now, will you blame me?" He really couldn't do something as thick-skinned as that. Then, have young master heard about the three-dragon roll? When Wu Yuer saw Fang Jingji's calm expression, she had more or less guessed what Fang Jingji was thinking. Instantly, she felt that she was a little too petty. This thought caused her to feel somewhat stunned. It was clearing him who had disrespected her, but now, she seemed to feel guilty. This was indeed something strange. When Fang Jingji saw that Wu Yuer didn't become angry, and instead asked him about the three-dragon roll, he felt that this matter should be over. But, he didn't quite understand, how was the three-dragon roll related to the portrait on the city gate? But, since he was the guest, he couldn't do too many things at his own accord. Hidden dragon, rising dragon, golden dragon, make up the three-dragon roll. Fang Jingji replied. Indeed, then do you know what is the meaning of this three-dragon roll? When Wu Yuer relaxed, she poured herself a cup of fragrant tea and sipped lightly, as if not rushing to return back to the main topic. Fang Jingji shook his head. He only knew that the great Xia dynasty had created the three-dragon roll, but, as for its meaning, he actually didn't know. The only thing he knew was that the three-dragon roll represented the ranking of different abilities. The hidden dragon roll records young talents below the age of 18, while the rising dragon roll sets the age limit to 20.8. Also ranked by abilities, the golden dragon roll doesn't limit the age, but, it represents the strongest of abilities. Wu Yuer explained slowly. Fang Jingji nodded. He knew this as well, but he didn't quite understand what was the point of Wu Yuer discussing these. Young master knows how the three-dragon rolls are ranked, then, does young master know about a prophecy from 8 years ago? Wu Yuer continued. What prophecy? 8 years ago, the teachers of the state received a sacred message from the heavens, appearing on the Heaven Dao tablet. It said, the double dragon roll champion would shock the world, and bring peace to the world. The double dragon roll champion would shock the world, and bring peace to the world. When Fang Jingji heard this, he suddenly thought of a name in his heart. A name that was deeply ingrained in him. Double Dragon Roll Champion, Qi Gaiyan. I believe young master had already guessed who this sacred message is referring to. When she asked, her gaze instinctively glanced into a certain direction. That direction was where the Heaven Dao Pavilion resided. Double Dragon Roll Champion, Divine Constabulary Qi Gaiyan. Fang Jingji nodded. That's right. Even though nobody knows where the peace written in the sacred message refers to the battle between the human race and the demon race, or the emperor position in the great Xia dynasty, but the current emperor had long announced that the Double Dragon Roll Champion will be able to control all the armies under the sky, and given the title Heaven Army General. Wu Yuer explained once again. Regrettably, Qi Gaiyan isn't that yet. Fang Jingji said the truth. Even though Qi Gaiyan was the Double Dragon Roll Champion, but she wasn't the Heaven Army General. Actually, she can be that. Since a year ago when Qi Gaiyan attained the Double Dragon Roll Champion, our emperor had already expressed his intentions to give her the title of Heaven Army General. But, Qi Gaiyan, citing that 10 years isn't up yet, rejected it, then secluded herself in the Heaven Dao Pavilion, far away from the imperial government and away from any powerful factions. A rare respectful tone appeared in Qi Gaiyan's voice. She is very smart. Fang Jingji nodded. He believed that what Wu Yuer said was true. Everybody considered Qi Gaiyan's actions noble and virtuous, yet young master claimed that she is smart. Looks like young master and Qi Gaiyan are both smart people. A glimmer of shock appeared on Wu Yuer's face for the first time. Are you praising yourself? Fang Zhengji smiled lightly. Ha ha. I am just agreeing with young master's view. Wu Yuer smiled lightly as well, then continued. Even though Qi Gaiyan's actions secluding herself from the world are extremely smart, but, 2 years later, the 10 years would be up, and when that time comes, Qi Gaiyan would have to resign to fate, become the Heaven Army General and become a legendary beauty. But, I still don't know, how is this related to the portrait on the city gate? No matter how powerful Qi Gaiyan was, Fang Zhengji didn't believe that the runaway Lolita kicked by him 8 years ago into the river would have any relation to him. Chapter 84. Criminal Demand Order. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Sparrow Translations Editor. Sparrow Translations, if it isn't because of a piece of criminal demand order. I believe everyone would have the same thing as young master. When Wu Yuer mentioned the criminal demand order, her gaze was intensely fixated on Fang Zhengji's face. Criminal demand order. Fang Zhengji suddenly didn't feel too good. With young master's intelligence, naturally you would be able to guess who this criminal demand order is demanding. And who made this demand? Wu Yuer saw the change in Fang Zhengji's expression, and her mouth curved into a slight smile. Fang Zhengji was silent. He wasn't dumb, it was his portrait that was hanged on the city gate, and Wu Yuer had to talk about Qi Gaiyan. Who this criminal demand order demands, and who made this demand, if he still didn't know, he would definitely be an idiot. Now, he also finally understood why Wu Yuer had to mention Qi Gaiyan first. With Qi Gaiyan's position and status in the Great Xia dynasty, personally giving this criminal demand order, its effect was definitely predictable. Double Dragon Roll Champion. People used to believe that that was something that was almost impossible to achieve. After all, even though the Hidden Dragon Roll and Rising Dragon Roll had some parts that overlapped, but nobody in history had ever achieved the Double Dragon Roll Champion at the same time. 18-years-old and 20.8-years-old. The difference was 10 years, how would that be simple? But, a year ago, the 13-year-old Qi Gaiyan had suddenly entered the world and used her shocking talents to cause all of the scholars in the world to submit willingly. Such a person, and moreover, a girl. Why would the scholars not act? What crime? Fang Zhengji tried his best to make his expression seem a little calmer. Forcefully unveiling Yun Qingwu's veil. Wu Yuer smiled, and at the same time took out a white piece of paper from her pocket and passed it to Fang Zhengji. On it, was a complete copy of the criminal demand order. Such an act, a degenerate scum of the community, calls out to every scholar and literary person, and unites all the talents to work together and publicly declare themselves enemies with this person. Forcefully stop him from progressing to prevent him from destroying the great reputation that lasted throughout all ages of our Great Xia dynasty. Fang Zhengji only had to take one look for his entire expression to change. These words were too malicious. Actually, young master need not worry too much. Even though Qi Gaiyan had sent out the criminal demand order, but, she drew a baseline for the people. Hence, also leaving a tiny opportunity for young master to live. Wu Yuer's slender finger gingerly pointed at the last paragraph of the criminal demand order. Glancing, Fang Zhengji also realized the baseline set by the last paragraph of the criminal demand order. In his heart, he naturally knew what the tiny opportunity to live Wu Yuer talked about was. A tiny opportunity to live. It was really only a tiny opportunity to live. This criminal should be punished to death by everybody, but our towering Great Xia dynasty has great reputation, how can we act like this criminal? Hence, appealing to all scholars in the world, using thunderous power and proper, open methods to kill this criminal in the law of Tao examination. Isn't this evidently not wanting me to happily participate in the law of Tao examination? Fang Zhengji had an urge to dash up the Heaven Dao Pavilion, and kick Qi Gaiyan down the clouds from the mountain peak of the Heaven Dao Pavilion. Proper, open method. What kind of proper, open method was this? And even appealing to all scholars in the world. Wasn't this a very typical case of asking a bunch of people to gang up on him? Young master is participating in the capital examination this time, do you have confidence? Seeing that Fang Zhengji didn't speak further, she slowly drank a cup of fragrant tea, seeming perfectly calm. I guess. The River of Trust capital should be rather bustling this time. Fang Zhengji didn't reply directly, and instead asked in return. Within the 5 constabularies of the northern desert, except those not qualified to participate in the capital examination, are all gathered in the River of Trust capital. I've already prepared everybody's information for young master. Wu Yue nodded, then, took out a thick envelope from her pocket and passed it to Fang Zhengji's hands. Bnoel.m. Fang Zhengji reached out and received it, then suddenly had an urge to swear. This thickness, wasn't it a little too exaggerated? Qi Gaiyan. It was just a kick, and already 8 years. You actually still haven't forgiven me. Forcing me to death. Fang Zhengji naturally couldn't give up the capital examination. Or, it could be said that even if he gave up the capital examination, Qi Gaiyan would have other methods to send him into submission once again. He suddenly felt somewhat regretful. 8 years ago, he should have put some poison in that fire plume chicken. Sigh, Qi Gaiyan's life in exchange for the entire southern mountain village being killed. After a thought, Fang Zhengji felt that even if he was given another opportunity, he still wouldn't be able to do it. I wish to know one thing, whose idea, and whose drawing was the portrait on the city gate by. Trouble had already come, hence Fang Zhengji could only face it head-on. Kong Xingping, number 80 in the Hidden Dragon role, Divine Seal late stage, direct line of descent in the Kong family, the 9th son. Wu Yu seemed to have prepared long ago, and in one breath revealed Kong Xingping's information. Where is he now? Serene Ink Pond. Why? Are you helping me? Because, I wish to personally see whether the number 1 lecher who could cause the number 1 scholar Qi Gaiyan to personally pass down a criminal demand order really was what she described. Wu Yue twitched her mouth and smiled slightly. Then what do you feel? It's true. Cough cough. Oh, I seem to remember that you are treating me to a meal, I wonder when are we eating? Fang Zhengji quickly changed the topic. He. The beautiful girl shook gently, and her smile was like the blooming flower. In front of the serene ink pond, a pale-faced scholar wearing a white robe, with a jade-green fan in his hands gazed at a line of white curtain falling from a piece of mountain rock and recited loudly. This scene had a sense of air swallowing the mountains and rivers, instantly attracting the countless attentions of people by the side of the serene ink pond. One by one, beautiful women wearing colorful clothes gazed at the man in front of the pond, and chattered in a low voice, their faces seeming like peach blossoms. Young Master Kong is indeed a huge talent who entered the Hidden Dragon role. Naturally, Kong Xingping is famous for being proficient in both literature and arts, and is a direct descendant of the Kong family. Whoever marries him would definitely be happy for life. Hey, how can sister say such a thing, so embarrassing. A 15 to 16-year-old lady gently covered her face, her 2 cheeks blushed red with embarrassment. But, her gaze eventually instinctively floated towards the scholar in front of the pond. Splash! Right at this moment, a loud sound of water rang out, as if a huge piece of 100-pound rock suddenly smashed into the river. Immediately after, a few urgent shouts came from beside the pond. Hey, who landed into the water? Young Master Kong landed into the water. Oh no, Kong Xingping had fallen into the serene ink pond. When a few ladies heard, their flowery expressions instantly changed and gazed towards the source of the sound. At where Kong Xingping initially stood, a 15 to 16-year-old youth stood, standing in the cool breeze, and the blue robe lightly billowing in the wind. Sorry, my hand slipped. The youth calmly gazed at Kong Xingping, whose mouth was agape in shock inside the serene ink pond, and spoke softly. Then, instantly turned around and left. Fang Jingji. It's Fang Jingji. There were countless scholars beside the serene ink pond, and very quickly, somebody recognized the true identity of this youth. After all, the entire River of Trust capital had Fang Jingji's portrait pasted all over it. Even if one didn't want to recognize him, it was still difficult. This is too much. Don't tell me he isn't afraid of offending Kong Xingping by doing this. Someone instantly expressed his doubt. Offend? Fang Jingji gazed at the doubtful man, and spitefully twitched his mouth. He was now the public enemy of the entire city, and under the attack of everybody. How would he be afraid of offending people? Else, was he supposed to act like a baby while everybody attempted to kill him, and hide his entire body inside his shell like a turtle? Let the sword fall on my neck and I laugh at the sky, I'll leave my loyalty and justice behind. Chapter 85. Instigation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Sparrow Translations Editor. Sparrow Translations. Not too far away, in an elegant viewing room, Yan Xiu, wearing brocade clothes, sat within and naturally saw the scene happening in front of the serene ink pond. This friend of young master is indeed free-spirited, but unfortunately offended some people he shouldn't be offending. The strong bearded man standing behind Yan Xiu heard Fang Jingji's words and sighed lightly. Yan Xiu didn't speak, and instead stood up gradually and walked out of the room. Young master wishes to help him. The strong bearded man saw Yan Xiu's actions and a glimmer of shock appeared on his face, but he didn't hold him back. Grandfather had said that we should be sincere towards our friend. Yan Xiu didn't reply directly, but the meaning in his words were very obvious. But, the person he offended is Qi Gaian. The strong bearded man reminded. The entire Great Xia dynasty knew what Qi Gaian represented. Double Dragon Roll champion, and with her outstanding status, even the current emperor didn't dare to force Qi Gaian to do something she didn't want to do. So what? Yan Xiu retorted. The strong bearded man was taken aback, then instantly a trace of smile appeared on his contorted face. That's right, since he said he must be sincere, what's the point of considering other things? In an instant, the strong bearded man suddenly felt that this young master in front of him seemed to have grown up. At least, he knew what was loyalty between friends. Fang Jingji naturally couldn't leave. In reality, when he appeared at the serene ink pond, he had never prepared to leave. Kong Xingping, whose body and hair was completely drenched with the cold pond water, blocked off his route. The initially handsome scholar temperament had already completely disappeared from Kong Xingping's body. What remained was a drowned rat that was freshly fished out from the pond. What a let the sword fall on my neck and I laugh at the sky, I'll leave my loyalty and justice behind. Today, let me see how you can laugh. Kong Xingping naturally couldn't control his rage. In reality, anybody who was leisurely admiring the scenery, if pushed by somebody into the pond, naturally wouldn't be able to act as if nothing had happened. Moreover, he still occupied a spot in the hidden dragon roll, representing the top 100 talents among the youths in the Great Xia dynasty. Brother Kong. A voice sounded out from behind Kong Xingping's back. Then, wearing a purple robe, his eyes so small that it was almost a line, a youth appeared beside Kong Xingping. It's Kai Yongfeng. Number 50.6 on the hidden dragon roll, Kai Yongfeng. I heard that his abilities had already reached the Divine Seal advanced stage, and is about to enter the Divine Seal peak stage. When the scholars beside the serene ink pond saw the purple robe youth, somebody instantly recognized thing. 2 youth talents on the hidden dragon roll was a rare sight. But today, they gathered together, and the reason was something everybody was naturally well aware of. Don't tell me that before the law of Tao examination, this good show is about to start in advance. If Brother Kai is here to view the fight, I naturally welcome you. But if Brother Kai is here to help, I believe there is no need to. Kong Xingping saw Kai Yongfeng, but his expression didn't seem very happy. The criminal demand order had gathered all the scholars under the sky in the River of Trust capital. Hence, whoever was the first to defeat Fang Jingji would become someone noticed by everybody. Most importantly, this would definitely be known by Qi Gaian. Kong Xingping wouldn't let such a good opportunity end up in the hands of Hans, especially since he was pushed into the pond by Fang Jingji. Kai Yongfeng's appearance was even more scheming, causing him to owe him a favor, and at the same time becoming famous and winning the heart of a beautiful woman. Ha ha ha. Brother Kong is mistaken. I'm here only to stop the fight, not to help. You should know that the law of Tao examination is the true fight. Kai Yongfeng laughed gently, filled with calm and elegance. Usually, his abilities were stronger than Kong Xingping, but his fate with women didn't match up to Kong Xingping. If he could prevent Kong Xingping from becoming famous, and also use this opportunity to compete with the dazed Kong Xingping, it would naturally be a good thing. Even though both of their targets were Fang Jingji, but there was only one Fang Jingji. Hence, naturally both of them had their own thoughts and ideas. Maybe this was what the ancient saying meant, even though there were many talents in the world, but they were all like a sheet of loose sand, unable to cooperate. Kong Xingping instantly understood Kai Yongfeng's malicious intentions, and was filled with anger. But, he didn't have a choice. He had already landed in such a state, if he couldn't fight and take revenge for this humiliation, how could he be satisfied? If I am young Master Kong, I will definitely let him feel what it's like to fall into the pond, then talk about stopping the fight, or helping in the fight. Fang Jingji, standing right in front of the two people, spoke at this moment. Kong Xingping's eye lit up suddenly, and at this moment, Kai Yongfeng also stood out. His intentions were very clear, it was naturally to stop him, then display his elegance. But if he also fell into the pond? Kong Xingping felt that this was a good idea, but the person who suggested this idea had to be Fang Jingji, causing him to feel a strange feeling. A glint shone inside Kai Yongfeng's slit eyes. Gazing at Fang Jingji, whose face was filled with calm as if none of these concerned him, the edges of his mouth curved into a smile. If he wanted to sow dissension between the two of them and cause him to fall into the trap, then Fang Jingji had underestimated him too much. Brother Kong, you cannot fall into his trap. You must think carefully, he was the one who pushed you into the pond, I'm only here to help. Brother Kong cannot act without reasoning. Kai Yongfeng reminded. Kong Xingping was stunned. When he looked at Fang Jingji again, sweat gradually broke out from his back. If not for Kai Yongfeng's reminder, he might really had fallen into the trap. Bvec Fang Jingji looked at these two people in front of him and smiled, sighing inside his heart. Seems like to be able to enter the hidden dragon role, one must really be somewhat scheming. Compared to those simple villagers living in the village, they were definitely stronger. Then, did the trap fail? Fang Jingji looked up and gazed at the azure blue skies. Since young Master Kong doubts my words, then let's make a bet. From the second this guy appeared, he had already intended to stop us from fighting fairly. Yet, now he actually said that he wishes to help you, this is indeed harboring unfathomable motives. How about I leave now, and we'll see if he stops you. How about that? When Fang Jingji finished his sentence, he turned around and left. Kong Xingping's mouth opened and closed. He didn't want to play such games with Fang Jingji, but letting Fang Jingji leave just like that was something he naturally didn't wish to happen. He moved and prepared to act. Brother Kong, don't leave him to the law of Tao examination. When Kai Yongfeng saw Kong Xingping act, he instantly went forward to stop him. To him, the purpose was to get merit for making the first move. As for Kong Xingping, his ranking was already behind that of his, what did he have to be scared of? The two, one in offense and one in defense, naturally contacted very quickly. Kong Xingping's abilities were already below that of Kai Yongfeng. Even though he acted first, he was still blocked by Kai Yongfeng. The already battered him instantly flew into a rage. Thinking of the words Fang Zhengji said previously, the rage was quickly directed towards Kai Yongfeng. And right at this moment, Fang Zhengji suddenly turned his head. His legs moved, and his figure changed. Just like a meteor, he instantly charged towards the two people. "Brother Kong, let me help you." As Fang Zhengji shouted, he had already reached the front of the two people. As he saw Fang Zhengji approaching, Kai Yongfeng couldn't help but to shout out inside his heart. "This is bad." Fang Zhengji wanted to attack using the strength of another. Without much hesitation, he instantly pulled back to block. And when Kong Xingping heard this, even though he wasn't very happy, but when he thought of what Kai Yongfeng just did, he still decided to watch the fight from the side. First get Fang Zhengji to battle with Kai Yongfeng, then he would claim the rewards from the battle. When he thought of this, the edges of Kong Xingping's mouth curved into a smile. But, very quickly, the smile on Kong Xingping's face froze. Because, he suddenly felt an intense pain coming from his stomach. Looking down, he realized a leg had kicked onto it. Kong Xingping would never have dreamed that Fang Zhengji would unleash a sneak attack on him at this moment again. Furthermore, he even did so in the name of teaming together against Kai Yongfeng. Shameless. The epitome of shamelessness. No matter how unhappy Kong Xingping was, he was still sent flying by Fang Zhengji's kick, and traced out a beautiful arch in mid-air. Splash! He landed into the serene ink pond once again. The change happened in a flash, happening so quickly that people were simply unable to react. At this moment, Kai Yongfeng was also slightly taken aback. He didn't understand why would Fang Zhengji suddenly change his target of attack just now. Don't tell me that Fang Zhengji didn't want me to land into the serene ink pond as well. Thank you, Brother Kai, for your kind help and cooperation, allowing me to take my revenge. Moonview Restaurant tonight, see you there. Fang Zhengji cupped his fist towards Kai Yongfeng, then turned around and left elegantly. Leaving Kai Yongfeng with his mouth agape beside the serene ink pond. Chapter 86. Tempest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Sparrow Translations Editor. Sparrow Translations, kind help and cooperation. See you there. Kai Yongfeng's mouth lightly mumbled Fang Zhengji's words, then, his face instantly turned a deathly shade of white. Slowly turning his head around and gazing at the Kong Xingping inside the pond, then gazing at the surrounding scholars and beautiful women. From their eyes, Kai Yongfeng inferred two emotions, shock and anger. Kai Yongfeng, you double-dealing and backstabbing malicious vile person, Kong Xingping, and you cannot exist together. Within the pond, Kong Xingping made an oath. The scholars and beauties beside the pond also stared at Kai Yongfeng and shook their heads. Even in their dreams, they would never have thought that Kai Yongfeng, ranked among the hidden dragon role, would actually conspire together with Fang Zhengji. What kind of charisma did this Fang Zhengji have? Just as the crowd was filled with doubt, another person appeared beside the pond. Then, the crowd saw a shocking scene. Wearing brocade clothes, with an expression cold as ice and waving a golden bone silver thread fan, a youth walked to Fang Zhengji's side. Resolved. Yan Xiu looked at Kai Yongfeng standing beside the pond and Kong Xingping who had landed inside the pond. Yes. Fang Zhengji shook his head. In front of Yan Xiu, he didn't like to lie. If he ever wanted to exploit Yan Xiu, he would add on a sentence like, "Thank you young Master Kai for your help. I can treat you to a meal." Yan Xiu lightly nodded. All right. Fang Zhengji didn't reject. Yan Xiu turned around, then, as if he thought of something, suddenly shot his gaze towards Kai Yongfeng standing by the pond. His tone was cold. "Thank you, young Master Kai, for your help." A light gust of wind blew past, and time seemed to have stopped at this moment. Standing by the pond, Kai Yongfeng stared at Yan Xiu with an expression of disbelief. Fang Zhengji was also slightly stunned inside. He believed that Yan Xiu was able to see the problem in this, but Yan Xiu's words were evidently. They are indeed together. Those who were initially in denial at this moment had lost all their doubt. Because everybody believed that a person as cold as Yan Xiu would never lie. When Kai Yongfeng wanted to explain further, Kang Xingping who was inside the pond didn't give him any further opportunities to speak. Fang Zhengji and Yan Xiu walked shoulder to shoulder towards the restaurant. But, beside the pond, calm was already impossible. The raging Kang Xingping wildly attacked Kai Yongfeng, each of his moves were deadly, and every move was sinister. Such wild attacks naturally caused Kai Yongfeng to not be able to hold back. Then, a death match began to start beside the pond. But in the end, it was Kang Xingping and Kai Yongfeng who were fighting to the death beside the pond. There seemed to be something wrong somewhere. Inside the restaurant, Fang Zhengji sat beside Yan Xiu, while the strong bearded man stood behind. A maid poured tea beside the two people, and everything was calm. Yan Xiu didn't question further. Because, he had already personally witnessed everything that had happened. Fang Zhengji also didn't speak. Because, he knew Yan Xiu wasn't inclined towards chatting. Just like that, the two sat quietly and watched the fight unfolding beside the pond. Until the two had exhausted all the strengths, and after a few people who couldn't bear to watch it anymore broke up the fight, this silence was finally broken. The capital examination is going to start 10 days later. Yan Xiu spoke first. Yes. Fang Zhengji nodded. This time, I heard the content is going to be different from the usual. Yan Xiu continued. Because of me. Fang Zhengji guessed. Yes, and no. Yan Xiu nodded and shook his head. Fang Zhengji didn't speak, and instead lightly sipped a mouth of tea and waited quietly for Yan Xiu to continue his explanation. Even though Qi Gaiyan's status is outstanding, but she didn't participate in the imperial government, and, all along, the capital examination's content had always been set by the Imperial Academy before seeking the left minister's comments and then distributed. But, this time, the number of participants in the River of Trust capital examinations is really too many, hence the chief examiner suggested a new examination content. The Imperial Academy had already authorized it, and so did the left minister. Finish this explanation in one breath. Yan Xiu's face seemed somewhat flustered, as if he wasn't very used to it. I understand. Fang Zhengji nodded once again. The change in the capital examination isn't in your favor. Yan Xiu drank another mouth of tea and continued. Do I have a choice? No. Then let nature take its course. Ever since Fang Zhengji appeared beside the serene ink pond, news of him entering the River of Trust capital naturally spread very quickly. Everybody guessed that Fang Zhengji's 10 days would pass very comfortably. But in reality, Fang Zhengji's days passed very comfortably. Yan Xiu had also booked a new room for him, beautiful and secluded. Indeed, Yan Xiu was indeed very sincere towards Fang Zhengji, and the reason Fang Zhengji accepted this act of sincerity wasn't to use Yan Xiu to protect himself. But instead, he felt that to be able to get away from these noisy flies, it was definitely not a bad thing. It was getting nearer to the capital examination. Initially, when nobody expected any more events to occur, an explosive news suddenly began to spread. Yun Qingwu had come to the River of Trust. This undoubtedly planted a fuse in the River of Trust, which was already ridden by a strong undercurrent. Countless scholars began to spread news that Yun Qingwu definitely came because of the criminal demand order. After all, Yun Qingwu was the biggest victim mentioned in the criminal demand order. Next, there were 3 days left to the capital examination. As of tradition, the River of Trust capital held a huge gathering of scholars and beauties. Almost every scholar that entered the River of Trust capital gathered at the cultural exchange venue. But, an even stranger thing occurred. Unlike what everybody expected, Fang Zhengji didn't appear in the cultural exchange. Furthermore, even Yun Qingwu didn't participate. The huge cultural gathering started among huge cheers, yet ended in a desolate sigh. This caused a huge question to appear in the hearts of the scholars in the River of Trust capital. What was the reason for Yun Qingwu's arrival? If it was due to Fang Zhengji, then why didn't she condemn him at the cultural gathering? Such a good opportunity wouldn't have been given up by any other person. Then, if Yun Qingwu's arrival wasn't due to Fang Zhengji, why would she choose this timing that would cause the most assumptions to come to the River of Trust capital? The crowd couldn't understand. Just as they discussed spiritedly, filled with doubt, they suddenly realized with a shock that it was already officially the start of the capital examination. Was it calm? Actually, it was indeed calm. Because, ever since Fang Zhengji arrived at the River of Trust capital, he had only appeared once at the serene ink pond. Even though it caused some activity, but, compared to the real tempest, that was only an inadvertent brush of shoulders. And now, the real tempest was about to befall. Chapter 87. Undercurrent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Sparrow Translations Editor. Sparrow Translations. It was a hazy and rainy dawn. A layer of faint mist lightly enveloped the River of Trust capital, like a lady just out from the shower, emanating an otherworldly sense of beauty. The capital examination was, as usual, split into the theory examination and combat examination. But what was different from the county examination was that this time, the capital examination had some changes. There was only one round of theory examination, and hence whoever was leaving would be determined by just one round of theory examination. It was rather cruel. But, to those who could travel great distances to the River of Trust, this cruel reality was rather insignificant. Definitely, there were always exceptions. For example, at this moment, Li Zhuangshi was rather gloomy. Staring at the dense mass of scholars participating in the River of Trust capital at the capital office, he didn't even have the mood to try anymore. Can it not be so extreme? It's just a capital examination, why are there so many people? The great Xia dynasty had set clear rules for the law of Dao examinations. The number of people accepted every capital's law of Dao examination was fixed. No matter how many people were in the capital, the final name list of accepted people would remain the same. Hence, the consequences were simple. The more people participating in the capital examination, the lower the chances of being accepted. 8 years. Li Zhuangshi exclaimed that heavens was messing with him. He had prepared for 8 years, and used 2 years to pass the county examination of the law of Dao examination. After being flushed with success, he then failed 2 times in the capital examination. It could be said that he had fallen into a deep ravine in an instant. And this year, was the last year of the 8 years he had, and was the year that Li Zhuangshi believed he had the most confidence. Yet, why did such a thing just had to happen? He wasn't satisfied, he really wasn't satisfied. Gazing at the indistinct yet fine drops of rain falling from the skies, Li Zhuangshi's hand instinctively felt a letter in his pocket. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. I'm sorry. At this moment, Li Zhuangshi seemed to have made a very difficult decision. As time passed, the number of scholars gathered in the River of Trust capital office became more and more, not at all affected by the drizzling rain. Instead, it surged a sense of enthusiasm in the scholars. Everybody were discussing spiritedly about what questions would come out in this theory examination, and also guessed what kind of rankings would result from this time's theory examination. The capital examination questions had always been very tough. Furthermore, there always would be a complete recitation of text from the Law of Tao. The 3,000 volumes of the Law of Tao, how many people on this world would be able to recite it completely? It has to depend on luck. Even though luck plays a part, but true ability is the most important. The recitation of the Law of Tao only brings out the question, the main point is still the usage and understanding of the law of Tao. Who do you think this time's theory examination role champion would be? Does that even need any guessing? Hua Kengan's ability is the strongest, number 20 in the Hidden Dragon role and with the Star Conglomerate Enlightenment state, and at the same time ranked in the Rising Dragon role. But discussing about the theory examination, I instead seem to believe that it would be Zhang Hetong. I also believe that it would be Zhang Hetong. The Zhang family had been involved in the government all along and is a family with literary reputation. Furthermore, I heard that he had been personally praised by the chief examiner in the county examinations, and his comments were outstanding literary talent. What do you all think about Fang Zhengji? I heard that he had attained role champion in the Huaiyan County. And, seems like it was full marks. Fang Zhengji. Full marks. Ha ha ha. Who had ever seen his examination paper before? Only heavens would know how he had gotten this full mark. I only heard that he reported this opponent called Meng Yushu, and barely made it to the first-class role in the first round. Such a theory examination role champion is nothing more than a frog in the well. Ha ha ha. Brother Chen's wise observations, I indeed agree. As the crowd discussed, two people approached slowly from afar. One was dressed in brocade clothes, holding a golden bone silver thread fan, his expression cold as ice. The other wore a slight smile on his face, wearing a blue robe that danced lightly in the drizzling rain. It was Yan Xiu and Fang Zhengji. Fang Zhengji is here. Yan Xiu is actually walking with him. Don't tell me Yan Xiu is participating in this capital examination as well. Oh, I had forgotten Yan Xiu. He seems to be 16 this year, based on the Yan family traditions, leaving at 16, he might really be able to participate. If Yan Xiu also participates in this capital examination, then it is indeed going to be interesting. I don't know what enlightenment state Yan Xiu has already reached. Even though Yan Xiu's name is famous, but nobody had ever seen him fight. He isn't even ranked in the Hidden Dragon role, no matter how strong he can be, I believe he shouldn't have reached Star Conglomerate. Fang Zhengji's appearance didn't cause any shock to the crowd, but Yan Xiu's appearance caused the crowd to start guessing. After all, the Yan family's reputation was something everybody in the Great Xia dynasty was familiar with. Hearing the discussion going around them, Yan Xiu's cold expression seemed to have a rare change. He frowned slightly, but very quickly returned to its original calm. Looks like you don't seem to like other people associating you and the Yan family. Fang Zhengji easily noticed Yan Xiu's change in expression. Yes. Yan Xiu nodded. Then, you need to have some proof, and is this the reason you left the Western Liang and came to the faraway northern desert to participate in the Law of Tao examination? Fang Zhengji guessed. Yes. Yan Xiu nodded again. Fang Zhengji didn't inquire further. After he got to know Yan Xiu, he managed to infer that the Yan family didn't belong to the northern desert. Under normal circumstances, giving up what was near to pursue what was far wasn't a wise move. But since Yan Xiu gave it up, he naturally had enough good reasons. Gong. The gong signifying the start of the examination sounded, and the theory examination had officially begun. Due to the large number of people participating in the capital examination, the amount of space in the River of Trust Academy naturally wasn't enough. Hence, the venue of this theory examination is held in the capital office of the River of Trust Capital. The two redwood doors carved with animal figures represented the prestige of the capital office. 4 rows of armored capital guards stood at the north, south, east and west of the capital office, each armed with a spear and awaited with military discipline. A few other invigilators wearing black official clothes also patrolled about the capital office door. From this, it could be inferred that the capital examination was indeed much stricter than the county examination. Definitely, passing the capital examination was like crossing the Dragon's Gate, leaving one's name in the Great Xia dynasty's record books, and most of all, receiving the protection of the law. As long as one didn't commit any serious crimes, one would likely not face any punishments. Furthermore, one would even receive the invitations of powers from all around, becoming an advisor, or even being given some appointments and enjoy special treatment. The crowd of scholars walked in a line. Fang Zhengzhi naturally walked shoulder to shoulder with Yan Xiu. At the door that led into the capital office, Fang Zhengzhi noticed Li Zhuangshi, whose brows were threaded together in a deep frown. Li Zhuangshi similarly also noticed Fang Zhengzhi, and his eyes instantly lit up. Zhengzhi, our fates are indeed different routes to the same destination. This capital examination, to have met such a situation, is indeed heaven playing with us. Li Zhuangshi, for the first time, somehow didn't mock Fang Zhengzhi, and instead expressed his empathy. Fang Zhengzhi nodded, expressing his agreement. When Li Zhuangshi saw Fang Zhengzhi nod, a cold glint inadvertently flashed in his eyes. Sigh. Never mind. Your father and I have a deep bond with one another, and I really cannot bear to see you miss the role today, hence I wish to help you out a bit. A few days ago, I have received an answer sheet through a friend, I'll give one to you. As Li Zhuangshi spoke, he carefully fished out a letter from his pocket and stealthily stuffed it into Fang Zhengzhi's hands. Fang Zhengzhi was slightly taken aback. He looked at Li Zhuangshi, then looked at the letter in his hands. Uncle Li, you really wish to do this? I hope that you can understand me. Li Zhuangshi's expression was filled with sincerity. Oh, then thank you Uncle Li. Fang Zhengzhi didn't speak further and directly stuffed the letter into his pocket, and with big strides, walked into the door of the capital office. Chapter 88. Acting early. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Sparrow Translations Editor. Sparrow Translations. Once he entered the examination venue, Li Zhuangshi saw Fang Zhengzhi standing at the entrance quietly looking at himself. Don't tell me I've been discovered. Li Zhuangshi had a guilty conscience, but forcefully calmed himself down. Zhengzhi, why don't you find a seat to sit down first? I wish to ask Uncle Li a few questions. Fang Zhengzhi walked to Li Zhuangshi's side and spoke calmly. Li Zhuangshi's heart thumped, and sweat instantly broke out from his back. If Fang Zhengzhi had seen through him now, then everything was over. Please. Ask. Li Zhuangshi inhaled deeply. What would happen if Uncle Li misses the role this time? Fang Zhengzhi's tone sounded calm, just like they were chatting casually. Miss the role? Li Zhuangshi frowned. If I miss the role, I believe I will take the examination again. Even if the Hall of Dao in the southern mountain village is demolished, I will still bring Huer to another village. Li Zhuangshi didn't conceal. This were his true intentions. After 8 years of effort, how could he give up? Then what if you were banned from participating in the Law of Dao examination? Fang Zhengzhi continued to ask. This. Li Zhuangshi was taken aback. He indeed hadn't thought about this. Then, he was suddenly stunned. Why would Fang Zhengzhi suddenly ask such a question? Just as he prepared to speak, he realized that Fang Zhengzhi had already shaken his head and walked away. Looks like Uncle Li haven't thought about that. A faint voice floated over, yet it caused Li Zhuangshi to feel a chilling sensation in his bones. Had he realized? No. I can't wait anymore. Li Zhuangshi gritted his teeth and quickly followed. The examination venue of the capital examination was different from that of the county examination. Every seat was separated with a wooden board, and people outside cannot be seen. Hence, there was naturally no way to interact or cheat. If the county examination's theory examination was the epitome of relaxation, then the capital examination's theory examination could be described as seamless and gapless. This didn't mean that the great Xia dynasty had suddenly preferred the pen to the sword. Instead, it was because the purpose of the capital examination and the purpose of the county examination were two completely different concepts. Passing the county examination meant that one had begun to practice. It was equivalent to entering the door. The Great Xia dynasty naturally wouldn't directly block the talented at the doorstep, hence, giving chance at the theory examination was counted as normal. But the capital examination was different. After the examination, one's name would enter into the record, and every month, there would even be money grants. Even though it wasn't much, but the social status was completely different. Hence, the possibility of cheating was really too low, and the punishment would be incredibly serious. A light one would be forfeiting one's examination results, a serious one who banned one from 3 rounds of examination. If the situation was especially vile, it might even cause a lifetime ban from participating in the law of Dao examination. This time, Fang Zhengji had prepared before becoming. Furthermore, due to Yan Xiu's explanation in the room, he naturally had become more familiar with the rules of the capital examination. The amount of people participating in the examination was too many, hence the time to enter the venue wasn't as strict. The interior of the capital office was spacious and rooms of various sizes filled the examination venue. Each venue had invigilators patrolling, and Fang Zhengji quickly found a brightly lit spot and sat down. Then, he waited quietly for the theory examination to begin. Then, right at this moment, an invigilator wearing a black official robe suddenly walked towards Fang Zhengji, and behind him, Li Zhuangshi followed. He arrived rather quickly. Fang Zhengji sighed. His face was calm as normal, and didn't seem anxious at all. Li Zhuangshi followed behind the invigilator and his gaze was fixated at the spot where Fang Zhengji stuffed the letter into. He was indeed afraid of Fang Zhengji, he was too smart. He didn't dare to wait till the official start of the examination. Because, the longer he dragged, the easier it was for problems to occur. Fang Zhengji. The invigilator walked in front of Fang Zhengji. Yes. Fang Zhengji nodded. Somebody reported that you brought the answer sheet into the venue. The invigilator's gaze instantly became fierce. When the words left his mouth, the attention of a few scholars who were currently finding their seats were instantly perked. Bringing the answer sheet. Wasn't this cheating? Fang Zhengji brought in the answer sheet. This isn't very possible. With his role champion results in the county theory examination, even though he wouldn't be able to get a good ranking in the capital examination, but making it into the second-class role wouldn't be a problem. Why would he bring in the answer sheet? I believe it is for a good ranking. He knows that this time, the competition in the capital examination is intense, hence took the risk of bringing in the answer. That's possible. One by one, the scholars started to gesticulate, and discussed softly. Theory examination answer sheet. The theory examination hadn't even begun, why would there be an answer sheet? Fang Zhengji wasn't at all anxious. He continued to sit at his table, his face filled with an innocent expression. The invigilator was taken aback. After being reminded by Fang Zhengji, he instantly managed to regain his senses. As the invigilator of the capital examination, he had the responsibility and task of maintaining order in the examination venue. Hence, after hearing Li Zhuangshi report, he didn't think too much and directly walked over. Now that he understood, the invigilator's gaze shifted towards Li Zhuangshi. The meaning was clear, can you explain what you are reporting? It's the capital examination's materials. Inside, there is the original text of the law of Dao, and a few answers guessed outside the exam. Li Zhuangshi met the invigilator's gaze and instantly explained without concealing anything. If the invigilator left at this moment, all his previous efforts would have gone to waste. Fang Zhengji, explain yourself. The invigilator nodded lightly and looked at Fang Zhengji again. We can't bring in materials. Fang Zhengji heard the invigilator's words and looked as if he had just woken up from a dream, his expression filled with shock. When the surrounding scholars saw this, they instantly began to laugh. This Fang Zhengji was indeed dumb, he actually asked such a question. This was the capital examination, how could he be allowed to bring in resources related to the law of Dao? If that was really allowed, there would likely be people who would bring their entire bookshelf over. Obviously not. Bringing in materials is counted as cheating. The invigilator instantly cited the rules. But the examination hasn't even started, this isn't allowed too. Fang Zhengji continued to ask. No. The invigilator could already confirm that this Fang Zhengji in front of him would definitely possess cheating materials, else he wouldn't ask such questions. Alright, then what are the punishments for bringing in materials into the examination venue? Fang Zhengji didn't seem too worried. But, the surrounding scholars already couldn't quite contain themselves. Bringing in materials into the examination venue was counted as cheating, based on the rules. Even if it was found out before the examination started, one would be removed from the examination on the spot. If there were answers within the materials relating to guessing of questions, they would be banned from participating in the next 3 rounds of examination. Fang Zhengji is going to be removed from the examination. I never thought that this would happen, this is indeed the greatest news of this capital examination. Indeed. The surrounding scholars also could confirm that Fang Zhengji being removed from the examination had already become a reality, except that this incident was too shocking. Bringing in materials. Then, reported by people on the spot, and then being removed from the examination. Indeed, the consequences of some things came very quickly. Bringing in materials into the examination, following the rules set by the Imperial Academy, must be removed from the examination. About whether one would be banned from future examinations, it would require the personal judgment of the chief examiner. The invigilator's tone at this moment seemed extremely cold and heartless. Chapter 89. Body Search. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Sparrow Translations Editor. Sparrow Translations. After hearing the invigilator's words, the surrounding scholars' faces were filled with laughter. They waited for Fang Zhengji to be brought out of the examination venue, yet Fang Zhengji quietly sat at his spot, as if nothing had happened. Fang Zhengji, come out with me. The invigilator saw that Fang Zhengji didn't move, and urged. Why? Fang Zhengji's face was filled with innocence. You brought in materials into the examination, and have been counted as cheating, yet you still ask why. The invigilator became rather impatient. Invigilator, as the invigilator of the theory examination, mustn't you bear responsibility for your words? I wish to ask you, have you personally seen me bring materials into the examination venue? Fang Zhengji retorted. The invigilator was taken aback. He indeed hadn't seen Fang Zhengji bring in any materials, but a witness had reported him. Furthermore, Fang Zhengji just now seemed to have already admitted. Wait, no, it seems like he didn't admit. Why not you search me? Fang Zhengji saw that the invigilator didn't speak, and took the initiative to suggest. Search. The invigilator was somewhat hesitant. The Great Xia dynasty respected human rights, especially those of scholars participating in the examination. If there wasn't any good evidence, searching the bodies of examinees as he pleased wasn't within his powers. Invigilator, I have personally witnessed him bringing in materials into the examination venue, and furthermore, in his pockets, there is a letter. Inside it, are the materials. Li Zhuangshi affirmed by the side. Are you sure? The invigilator continued to hesitate. Yes. Li Zhuangshi nodded. Then. Search. The invigilator stared at Li Zhuangshi for a full 3 seconds, then finally gritted his teeth. When the surrounding scholars heard about the search, they instantly stood up. Searching a person in the examination venue was a rare occasion, and naturally caused their interests to be perked. But, they were rather doubtful, based on the behavior Fang Zhengji had just shown, it probably wouldn't be very easy to search Fang Zhengji's body. Come. Search me. Fang Zhengji's cooperativeness was completely unexpected. As he spoke, he even took the initiative to stand up from his seat, and conscientiously flipped open all his pockets and poured out a few notes and silver pieces he had. Then, he signaled to the invigilator that he could personally begin the search. Looking at Fang Jingji's actions, the invigilator felt that something wasn't quite right. He had also heard some news about Fang Jingji, especially the incident that happened at the Serene Ink Pond. The people involved might have not been able to understanding what was happening, but how could the spectators not guess? To be able to magically frame everything on Kai Yongfeng, what good things would come out of a person like that? Then what was wrong? The invigilator momentarily couldn't understand, but since Fang Jingji had already signaled that he could begin the search, as the saying goes, the arrow is already on the bow, and has to be shot. Without a choice, he couldn't only trust Li Zhuangshi once. Instantly, the invigilator took 2 steps forward and began the search. Fang Jingji on the other hand didn't resist at all. He opened his hands and his expression was calm and magnanimous, similar to that of a lamb waiting to be butchered. Seeing Fang Jingji's manner, Li Zhuangshi similarly had a feeling that something was wrong. Fang Jingji was too calm and composed, just like a third party uninvolved in the situation. This wasn't possible. If he really brought in materials, he would definitely not be able to be as composed. But, the materials were clearly on Fang Jingji's body. This point, Li Zhuangshi could almost confirm. Don't have. The invigilator searched thoroughly, and he instantly felt somewhat cold. If he really managed to find something, it was still acceptable. But now, he didn't manage to find anything. What should he do? His gaze quickly landed on Li Zhuangshi. That's not possible, there clearly is. I've seen it myself, let me search. Li Zhuangshi was also similarly in disbelief, and instantly went forward to search personally. This was actually against the rules, but Fang Jingji seemed as if he hadn't even noticed. He continued to open his hands, his expression calm, and accepted Li Zhuangshi's search. At this moment, the surrounding scholars also stared with their eyes rounded. They searched on the table, on the chair and on the floor. They also believed that Fang Jingji definitely brought materials into the examination venue. But, why wasn't there any? Can I participate in the examination now? After waiting for everybody to finish searching the areas around him, Fang Jingji finally spoke. I'm sorry for the disturbance. The invigilator frowned, and prepared to leave. Wait a moment. At this moment, Fang Jingji suddenly halted the invigilator. What's the matter? The invigilator stopped in his tracks, but for some reason, his heart suddenly trembled. Because, he could clearly see the smile at the edges of Fang Jingji's mouth. It was a very harmonious smile, yet, the invigilator felt a sense of chilliness in his heart. My great Xia dynasty has always been people-oriented, and respects scholars taking part in the examination. Everything has to be fair. Previously, somebody suspected me of bringing in materials into the examination, then, I accepted the search. This is something I believe everybody had seen. Then, I wish to follow the invigilator's principles in dealing with things. As long as there is a report, he can carry out the search. Now, I also wish to make a report. Fang Jingji revealed a slight smile. You are also making a report. When the invigilator heard this, he instantly felt that an ominous feeling. Yes, I suspect everybody had brought in materials into the examination venue, and hope that invigilator can search everybody participating in the capital examination one by one. Fang Jingji gazed at the invigilator with a casual look. What? Search one by one. What logic is this? Why search our bodies without any evidence? The surrounding scholars were instantly provoked, and began to cry out. But, after a thought, they suddenly began speechless. Because, they had also previously helped the invigilator to search Fang Jingji. Search everybody. The invigilator was taken aback. He finally understood why Fang Jingji was so cooperative just now. Furthermore, he even took the initiative to request for a search. This was simply digging a hole for him to jump into. Searching everybody one by one, how long was this going to take? This time, the number of participants in the capital examination was at least 5 times more than the past examinations. The delay wasn't very important, but such an act is indeed too extreme. It would definitely cause the chief examiner to notice. If he didn't do as Fang Jingji said, then it would be unfair. If Fang Jingji blew up the matter, he wouldn't be able to do anything. At this moment, he finally understood who was the true butchered lamb. This, without evidence. The invigilator said these words with huge difficulty. Such words couldn't even convince himself. Because, previously, he had very clearly searched Fang Jingji without any evidence at all. Wasn't suspicion the same as evidence? I seem to have been searched just like that just now. I hope invigilator can believe me. Furthermore, I think I can also be like Li Zhuangshi and help invigilator to conduct the search. Fang Jingji seemed to have full confidence. Chapter 90. Fruits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Sparrow Translations Editor. Sparrow Translations. The invigilator's sweat finally broke out. Indeed, the way they dealt with this problem was somewhat problematic. If it was escalated, the person in the worst position would be him. No wonder Fang Jingji would accept the search so willingly, and even took the initiative to suggest. Seems like Fang Jingji is just waiting for him. The invigilator's gaze shot to Li Zhuangshi, who was behind him, and felt the urge to rip Li Zhuangshi into 8 chunks. If invigilator feels that searching the entire examination would be too troublesome, then at least you should be searching the people in this room. Just now they were searching very happily. A bright smile lighted up Fang Jingji's face. Search this room. The invigilator swept his gaze across the dozens of examinees in the room, and finally made up his mind. Search. When the surrounding examinees heard this, their expressions instantly turned bitter. The wheel of fortune reversed. Just now, they were indeed searching Fang Jingji very happily, but now, it was about to be their turn to be searched. The invigilator's movements were very swift, because the longer they dragged, the worse it was for him. Within 15 minutes, the search of dozens of people in the examination room had been completed. The invigilator gazed at the roomful of scholars crying out their complaints, and let out a sigh. His gaze returned back to Fang Jingji. Is this okay now? There is still one person. Did invigilator forget? Fang Jingji used his glance to signal to the Li Zhuangshi standing behind the invigilator. Him. He isn't from this examination room. Li Zhuangshi, prepare to be searched. The invigilator wanted to say something, then had second thoughts. He had already searched this entire room of people, and this one person wouldn't amount to much. Instantly, he reached his hands towards Li Zhuangshi. His actions were rough, and didn't have any intention of bearing any tender, protective feelings towards Li Zhuangshi. After all, everything was caused by Li Zhuangshi. This. Invigilator, why would I bring in materials? Li Zhuangshi was taken aback, and instinctively wanted to dodge. But, he was very quickly held down onto the ground by the invigilator. Slash. A tearing sound rang out, and a hole was even torn in his shirt. The invigilator's actions were indeed rough. After holding back for so long, controlling the anger in his stomach, now that he was searching Li Zhuangshi, he naturally wanted to take his revenge. When the surrounding scholars saw this scene, their eyes were rounded with shock. Some who weren't as brave even shut their eyes, and didn't dare to look directly. L.Rg Li Zhuangshi cried out, ouch ouch, and struggled intensely. But, how could he retaliate against the strength of the invigilator? A pair of huge hands searched about Li Zhuangshi's body, and occasionally pinching a few times. Ha! Just as the crowd thought that things were more or less about to be over, a letter was suddenly found by the invigilator. Quick, look! There is a letter. Could it be? Don't tell me he was the one who brought in materials. Li Zhuangshi was currently suffering on the ground. When he suddenly heard the word letter, he raised his head. His face instantly turned a deathly shade of white. What is this about? Why? Why do I have a letter? This is simply impossible. Li Zhuangshi's eyes were now round with shock, and stared at the invigilator with disbelief while he slowly opened the letter. Inside it were the contents he passed to Fang Jingji. Letter. In my pocket. In a flash, Li Zhuangshi felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Then, he recalled the scene when he entered the examination venue. Fang Jingji was chatting with him inside the door. At that time, Fang Jingji stood too near to him, so near that it was somewhat strange. But, at that moment, all he thought about was to achieve his goal with underhanded means, and simply didn't notice Fang Jingji's hands at all. You sabotage me, this letter is clearly on your body, I personally gave it to you. Li Zhuangshi suddenly pointed his finger at Fang Jingji, and his expression was filled with malevolence. But, the malevolent expression disappeared in a flash. Because, very quickly, he noticed the cold glance that shot out from the invigilator's eyes. It is you. The invigilator was furious. No wonder Li Zhuangshi reported Fang Jingji so confidently, he wanted to impute Fang Jingji. But, the progress of things seemed to have met with an accidental. The person reporting had become the one cheating. Uncle Li, I think. You should think clearly, if you were banned from participating in the law of Dao examinations, what should you do? Fang Jingji shook his head as he gazed at Li Zhuangshi, whose expression was filled with both horror and rage. No. It won't happen. I cannot be banned from the examination, this is my last chance. Kai Yongfeng. Young Master Kai, save me. Li Zhuangshi suddenly leapt up from the ground, and charged towards the door. At the door, Kai Yongfeng dressed in brocade clothes looked at Li Zhuangshi with a dark expression. Young Master Kai, it's you who said that as long as I sabotage Fang Jingji, you will help me in the theory examination, quick. Quick, help me to plea for leniency. Li Zhuangshi grabbed onto Kai Yongfeng's sleeves, and his forehead instantly filled with terrified sweat. You really know how to accuse people wrongly. People like you should be banned permanently from the examination. Useless thing. Kai Yongfeng's expression changed, and then flicked his hands and forced Li Zhuangshi away. Then, he turned around and left without a second glance. Li Zhuangshi stood stunned on the stop. He looked at the leaving Kai Yongfeng, then turned around and looked at Fang Jingji who was sitting at his table, and a teardrop began to flow down his cheek. He only wanted to pass the law of Dao examination, he had also worked hard. But, after 3 rounds of examination, he was completely unable to pass the capital examination. Now, it was the last year of hope for him, yet for some unfathomable reason, he encountered this situation where every scholar was gathered at the River of Trust examination. Helplessness, desolation. Just as he was on the verge of giving up, Kai Yongfeng appeared in front of them, promising that as long as he sabotaged Fang Jingji, he would be able to help him during the theory examination. The theory examination, for 3 times in a row, he was stuck at the theory examination. Li Zhuangshi was really unhappy. He had also hesitated and knew the risk of doing this. But, what could he do? Passing the examination based on his abilities alone. He really didn't have the confidence. Suddenly, he felt that this scene in front of him was very familiar. 8 years ago. He planned to sabotage Fang Jingji. Even though he managed to preserve his life, but he was physically punished very rather badly. And this time, he evidently wasn't as lucky. Both times, he wanted to harm others, but instead was the one who was harmed. Li Zhuangshi was taken away. He didn't speak any further. But, at the last moment of leaving, his gaze was fixated on Fang Jingji. In those eyes were tears and regret, but there was not a single trace of hate left. Fang Jingji similarly looked at Li Zhuangshi. In reality, he had given Li Zhuangshi a chance, and, it wasn't just once. As long as Li Zhuangshi ceased his plan in time, this plan wouldn't have been possible at all. If he didn't report Fang Zhengji, it wouldn't be possible for Fang Zhengji to cause the invigilator to search his body. Everything seemed to be what Li Zhuangshi inflicted upon himself. But, Fang Zhengji knew that this incident wasn't concluded yet. Because, the real culprit behind the scenes was Cai Yongfeng. Number 50.6 in the Hidden Dragon Roll, Cai Yongfeng. Divine Seal Advanced Stage. Fang Zhengji twitched his mouth and closed his eyes slightly. Very quickly, a world filled with swirling white mist appeared in front of his eyes. On the ground was a humongous patch of crystal dot-like lake, and within the lake was a huge tree that reached into the heavens. Its branches were lush and dense, and each piece of leaf was as sparkling and translucent as a green jadeite. And on the huge tree, countless numbers of multi-dot-colored fruits hung. Each fruit was as dazzling as the multitude of stars that filled up the night sky.